too. We haven't had somebody manning that inbox for a little bit. I just got access to it about a week ago. So if you've put something in there before and it hasn't been answered back, I really apologize. I'm going the backlog now and trying to get everybody an answer as quick as possible, but there's a lot. So today we're going to talk about, again, mobile home parks in California. We'll talk about the old legislation. We'll talk about the pilot program, the extension, and the next steps going forward. And we are trying to go forward. I can't give you a good answer on what's going to happen, but I can tell you we are making steps forward. We're trying to extend this program. So when they opened the original OIR, we got some data about MHPs in California, and a lot of it was conflicting, but from our best estimate, there are about 4,600 mobile home parks in California with approximately 365,000 spaces for homes, and more than 2,400 of them have some type of master metered utility, energy utility. So, in 1997, the California, the Public Utilities Code, the 2790s, came into play. And there were kind of three big parts of that. The first one is that any mobile home park built after that point in time could not be master metered. So if they build a park now, if you build a new mobile home park in California now, since 97, it cannot be master metered. It's all directly billed. There was a clause in there that said mobile home park owners had the option to transfer their utilities, but there were huge stipulations on it. Basically, your utility had to be up to code to get it transferred, and no part of that program, no part of the cost of your replacing anything or getting it up to code could be passed through to the customers or to the utility taking over. So the mobile home operator really had to absorb all that cost. This is one reason a lot of people didn't take advantage of this part of the PUC, because it was just prohibitively expensive for most mobile home parks. So we did an analysis, and between 1997 and 2014, when we did the analysis, less than 1% of all spaces within California had taken advantage of that part of the PUC in the 2790s. Again, mostly because it's very cost prohibitive. The ones that were able to transfer are ones that had been built at that time. They'd been built in the early 90s, so they were built to that standard code. It was very easy to transfer through. But ones that are, like I said, part of that code says it has to be basically built to the GO, the General Order of California. At that point in time, the General Order said it has to be built to the code. Anything pre-1970, we assumed was not built to the 1970 gas code. The Western Manufacturer Homes Association filed a petition in 2010 to start a rulemaking to address this, that nobody was taking, well, not nobody, but virtually nobody was taking advantage of this, of that part of the legislation. And then we started that OIR, that order to institute rulemaking. So this decision right here, 1403-021, that established the pilot program. The decision was 2014. The pilot program began in 2015. So it authorized the difference between this and the 2790s and the PU code was a cost-sharing difference. It authorized the utilities to spread the cost of replacing a system through to the customer base. So through a general rate case, we began application accepting in January 2015, and I don't remember. I wasn't part of the pilot program at this time, so I'm not exactly sure how long that window was, but I think it was about 6 months. And the original goal of the pilot program was to convert 10% of the spaces that signed up within the first 3 years. And as they were going through, they found out that that was a little bit too ambitious. There were a lot of unknowns when they started digging things up, especially on the gas side. And one of the ways that this OIR, this decision got passed was we brought it in as a gas safety issue. Was, as you know, the PUC is the legislative authority to inspect your gas systems, and we have a lot of data on those gas systems. So we have a lot of data. You guys report to us all the leaks, all the leak repairs, things like that. We have a lot of data showing how many systems within California are built pre-1970, how many systems in California have leaks on them, how many systems in California are unprotected on the CP side. But it was a big uphill climb that we didn't quite understand the magnitude of it. So this 10% goal still has not been met. We're going forward right now to establish a permanent program, and that permanent program will set out new goals. So the pilot program began in January 2015. It was supposed to go 4 years, 15, 16, 17 to the end of 18. In 17, we realized that there was still a lot of work to do. So there was an extension to extend it to the end of 2019. We just passed a new extension to extend it to the end of 2020. That new extension is not because we're worried about work not being done. What we're trying to do there is keep the contractors working until we get a permanent program in place. There was a big concern that if we let the pilot program lapse and then bring a permanent program back in, the contractors would not come back to work on those systems. There were a lot of contractors kind of leaving the state for kind of greener pastures. So if we could keep the work going in California, they can stick around and work on those systems. So in the original, you'll see approximately a little over 1,800 mobile home parks representing almost 200,000 spaces initially applied in an intent, a form of intent saying we want to do this. Not all those systems made it in. There were some systems that applied that were not aware they were not master metered, or were not aware that some systems applied with propane we actually don't have, unless there's an electric system to go along with that that's master metered. We can't do anything about the propane system, unfortunately. But that's about 2/3 of all the master metered parks in California were willing to say, yes, we want to do this. So it was an incredibly popular program. It's still very popular. We still get a lot of questions every day. When are you going to open this up again and all that? So between the first 3 years of the pilot program, 17,000 spaces were converted. And so that's 4.5%. Again, we were shooting for 10% in 3 years. There were a lot of places when we started pulling up the pipes, we didn't realize how hard it would be to get to those pipes. So there were also a lot of places where there was a lot more work past the meter than we expected. So there's two types of work in the upgrade program. There's the to the meter work, and then there's the beyond the meter work. To the meter is done by the utility. Beyond the meter is done by a contractor, but all that beyond the meter work is usually paid for by the mobile home park operator themselves. And that beyond the meter work includes anything that goes into the coach. If those coaches are not ready for the upgraded system, there's a lot of work that has to go into that before the gas can get turned on. So there were a lot of delays in that part of the program. So at the end of 2017, more than 13,000 spaces were still in the queue. That's why that first extension was put in. And then since then, another 6,600 spaces have been converted. So this is just a comparison. In the 17 years before the pilot program, 216 spaces a year were converted. The average mobile home park in California has less than 75 spaces, so that's 3 parks a year. So during the pilot, almost 6,000 spaces were converted a year, and that's statewide. So that's PG&E, Sempra, Southwest Gas did some. There was also some electric companies where in propane country that like Liberty and Bear Valley that did just electrical upgrades. This is the new extension, E4958. this is an old slide. It says proposes to extend the program. This extension has passed, so the program has been extended. The pilot program has been extended to 2020. Again, that's to make sure that if we get a permanent program in place, we can keep rolling, and there's kind of a seamless transition between that, especially for the contractors working in the field. So utilities are working to convert more Category 1 and Category 2 spaces. Category 1 and 2, that deals with the prioritization lists. When everything came in, we knew we wanted to upgrade as many spaces as possible. It was not a choice of what did get upgraded and what didn't. It's what got upgraded first. And so there was a scoring system. That scoring system took into account the age of the system, the material of the system, is it CP or not, the leak history of the system, different things like that. And so the more what we would call risky systems got to the top, those were called Category 1s. And a lot of people didn't like that way to do it because they felt, well, we've been taking care of our system. Why should we be put at the end of the list? And we understand that. But part of it was the decision got passed through on an idea of improved safety. And so it was prudent to put the least safe systems at the top and work our way through, especially since the idea was not to not convert the Category 3s, but just to convert them down the line. So, and it really bore out. We did see, as the excavators were going through and pulling up pipes, we saw some pretty horrific things, and I've got some slides at the end to show you what we were looking at as pipes came out of the ground. And so this is the current status as of September last year, but I can tell you I'm on the committee to get the resolution kind of rolling. So right now we're evaluating the pilot program to see, was it a good program and is it cost efficient? It was a very, very popular program, not just with mobile home park operators, but also the utilities. And we are seeing that there is a huge increase in safety just from, like I said, what we're pulling out of the ground on the gas side and the electric side. So right now we're determining, we kind of know we would like to set up a permanent MHP program kind of into perpetuity, but what that program looks like, how it's structured, and if it's structured at all like the pilot program, those are the decisions we're making now. And then should we decide to establish the permanent program, a second application window would happen in 2020 to ensure that this moves smoothly. If you're already on that list, you will stay on that list. So we're not throwing away, the applications. If you've applied in the past, that list continues. So again, yeah, the new OIR, it says will create, the point is to try and create a permanent program. And kind of using a metric of what we saw, we would convert around 4% of the spaces a year with the goal to convert 50% by 2030 and then 100% of the list by 2050. So this will go on long after I'm not in the commission, hopefully. So I talked a little bit about this, about the priority ranking, and so applicants to the upgrade program were risk-based. That's how we got it pushed to the decision, was we had to make sure that it was a risk-based analysis and not just a first-come, first-serve, unfortunately. So most of the points had to do with safety, again, material, leak history, installation date, again, that are you put in before about 1972 or after? Because before 1972, we cannot say anything about how it was put in. We're finding now we can't say anything about how it was put in after 1972, but in 1972, there were gas laws. Again, spaces and occupancy. Under reliability, that had more to do with the electric system. Part of the upgrade is to bring every park up to a 100 amp capacity. So there are parks that are still 30 and 50 amps, and we're trying to bring 100 amps into every park right now. And then cost efficiency, if you lived in an area where you had two master metered systems on the same utility, you got about a half point. It really didn't affect most things because all in all, there were something like 15 points that were possible through the system. So a half a point one way or another didn't really affect. There was more on the safety issue. So we did see a lot of systems that were split. There's a lot of systems that have, especially in the Southern California, you have Sempra and SoCal Energy, SoCal Electric. Those are two different utilities, but again, they were prioritized in their area just as well as PG&E was. The data was collected from the annual reports, the application. We got some data from HCD on the electric side. They're the ones who do the electric, if you ever had an electric inspection. There were pre-inspections of the MHP systems. You know, we come around every 3 to 5 years to check your gas systems. I would say probably about a third of our systems that I see are built before 1972. So those are pre-code systems. We see a lot of CP deficiencies depending on we do a lot of work in the summer. So we go there when the soil is nice and dry. So we see a lot of low CP. We see a lot of AC, atmospheric corrosion. We see a lot of non-qualified individuals performing maintenance, and that especially is true in parks who have a high turnover rate, where the manager or the owner is different every 3 to 5 years, and they're very unaware of what their responsibilities are on the gas system. We see a lot of lack of records, and yeah, again, high turnover of managers, which leads to lapsed maintenance. So these are some of the things that our utilities saw when they were pulling pipes out of the ground. This is a steel pipe. It was not protected. And you can see there's a hole right next to that penny for size, and then there's a line leading back from that, and there's about 6 or 7 perforations through that, and that's just from corrosion. This is non-standard pipe joining. You can see you've got one size of pipe coming in, then you've got a second size of pipe right after this reducer that's joined on a bevel. That's not really something we like to see. They did see a lot of that where we also saw things where people were connecting pipes with garden hose and hose clamps and things like that. They would have a leak. They'd go in there and cut out a section of the pipe, and they'd fix it up with whatever they had in the garage. So we did see some of that. Saw a lot of this where you had inadequate clearance and improper support. When the new systems go in, we call it a transfer and upgrade program. We're not transferring any of that infrastructure. New infrastructure is being laid, every inch of it. And so when they put in new pedestals and new gas meters like this, they have to do it to the proper code. So there is some issue with parks, especially that are really crammed. You'll put a gas pedestal in, and no matter where you put it between the coaches, it's too close to one. So there are some issues like that where they have to get kind of creative, maybe put it on the front side or the back side, something like that. But we see a lot of things where it's not the right clearance from you see this is right next to the hose bibs and all that and the water meter. And yeah, there's no support on this. So everything new going in is put into the proper code now. And then you can see this is a utility pole, and that top crossbar has seen better days. It's ready to splinter apart. They're seeing a lot of that, and they are replacing those poles as they find them. So again, the improved safety from the upgrade program, the systems they're putting in have to be put in by the proper design code, the current design code. They're all pressure tested poly systems, so they're all plastic pipe. Nobody's putting in steel services. The improved electric capacity, everything's being upgraded to 100 amps. And then that maintenance that's going forward, again, once those parks are out of the master meter game, those are not their lines. So that system becomes part of the gas operator's map, and that system, the gas and the electric, are maintained going forward by the utility companies. It's something you don't have to worry about anymore. You don't have to worry about the billing. It's no longer your responsibility. And if there's an issue, you can call the professionals to come in and do something about it. So again, thank you. And any questions, I'm going to put this mic up here so we can ask questions if people want to come forward, or if you just want to stand up, we can do that. The idea was mobile home parks, most mobile home parks were land banks. They were set up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And the idea was, I'm going to buy this land, and for about 20 years, I'm going to make it a mobile home park. And when the price goes up, we're going to phase out the mobile home park, and I'm going to sell this off to a developer. In the meantime, in California, there was an affordable housing crunch. And when the affordable housing laws came in, one thing that a lot of municipalities did said, well, we have affordable housing. We have that mobile home park at the edge of town or at the edge of the county. That's our affordable housing. So a lot of mobile home park owners found themselves in a bind. They could not close that. The city, the county, the municipality said, no, you are the affordable housing. You can't close this mobile home park down, or we don't have affordable housing. And so these mobile home parks now have been in operation for 50, 60 years with the same utilities. So they're getting to end of life, especially on their gas systems. And we're seeing a lot more leaks, a lot more issues on the gas systems. The WMA got a lot of complaints about that. They're the ones who requested we open up that rate-making case, that rule-making case, to say, you know, we need to do something. We need to try and put a little gas into this fire to get these parks replaced, get these parks upgraded. Because that 1997 law didn't really do anything because it's so prohibitively expensive for most mobile home park owners and operators to change those utility systems. So that was the big impetus. When they brought it to us, the way we could sell it to the commission was it is a safety issue, and we could show them the safety, and so it stayed with the gas branch. We brought in the electric because it, you know, by the time we were doing it, we found it was just easier to do them both together. It stayed with the gas branch because we had that data to show, yes, things are getting worse on a leak side. So the big impetus is to try and replace these systems that are getting to end of life, especially systems that go in before 1972 so they don't need CP on them. So they've been in the ground for 50 years without cathodic protection. So that was the big kind of rationale and impetus to try to get things changed out through California. Yeah. Yes, sir. No, actually, because the utility upgrade system replaces things, you got extra points if it was a pre-1972 system. We consider those more risky, and so they would go up in the so if you're a pre-72 system made out of, say, bare steel with no CP system, you actually go up in the rankings, you go up in priority. And so we were trying to replace the most risky systems first, because so risk is probability times consequence, and the longer your system has been in, because of time-dependent threats like corrosion and things like that, the more likely your system will fail. So we were trying to replace the failing systems first, or the systems we thought would fail first. So pre-1972 systems, especially ones without CP, would go up in the ranking. They would be our category ones. Yes, sir. So within PG&E's territory, we've actually just pushed up all Category 3s into the Category 2s. So throughout the program, they've finished pretty much all the Category 1s and all the Category 2s. They're kind of on the tail end of their Category 2s now. So we have released pretty much every park to be done. However, there is still, even in the Category 3s, there is still an order. So you will be seeing PG&E maybe reaching out to you if you were in the Category 3. I can't say exactly where you might be in that ranking. And again, I can't guarantee you anything, but we are making pretty good progress on the new resolution. If there is a permanent program put into place, you should look for a new, if you haven't applied yet, you should look for a new application period within the next year or so. And we would post that on our website. But if you're on the list already, you've been pushed up. Yes, sir. Unfortunately, no. The window for the pilot program, I think, shut off midway through 2015, and that was the list. We only expected the pilot program to go 3 years. It's been extended due to circumstances. So currently, right now, we aren't taking applications, but there will, if we get this new process rolling, if we get a new program rolling, we will post when those applications will be, when that new application window is. So I would say check back in about 3-4 months to our MHP upgrade program. I'm not saying it's going to be there, but there may be an announcement of when it might be. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. So depending on who your service provider is. So if you're in an area that has a municipal electric or a municipal gas, we have no jurisdiction over them. The utility, the investor-owned utility, PG&E, say, will work with the municipalities to try to get them to do part of it, but whether or not they share the trench then is up to them. But if PG&E is your provider for both utilities, they would share the same trench, and they'll replace things at the same time, roughly. Yes, ma'am. So it'll just be the cpuc.ca.gov website. If you go under safety, there's a tab right at the top. You go to the safety tab, a drop-down menu will come up. You'll see mobile home parks, go into there, and about halfway down, you'll see mobile home upgrade program, and click that, and that's where all of the announcements will come. We also just put up, we had a workshop, a public workshop here in mid-March for the permanent program, just kind of eking out that, and all the materials from that workshop are now on that website. Sir? Mm-hmm. Currently, no. Currently, we want to keep this a voluntary program. I can't say 20 years down the line where new legislation comes in that they make it that nobody can have master meter anymore, but as currently, we want to keep it a voluntary program. So there is no plans to make it mandatory as of yet. That's what I can tell you. And from the commission's standpoint, that mandatory word, it leaves a bad taste in our mouth. We don't like that idea, you know. But like I said, 20 years down the line, I can't say what they'll do or not. But currently, no. Any other questions about the MHP upgrade program? If you have any questions, this will be posted. That's my email, and that's my desk phone number. I'm reachable more on email. I try to get back within about 2 days on email. Like Brian, I'm out in the field about half the time, and I'm in places sometimes where the phone doesn't ring. So my email is better. You can also go to that MHP upgrade program inbox and put it there, and I'm the one manning that as well. So I appreciate all your questions. If you have any other questions, I'll be here all day, or you can email me or call me. Thank you very much.